Hey everyone, Cassius here, welcoming you back to the Shakespeare Minute. Today, in honor of last weekend's premiere of The Hollow Crown, I am here to talk about Richard II. Hey, didn't I say I would be taking a break from the histories? Why, yes I did, until July, which it is now. I know that's cheap, considering that I did take a 2-week hiatus during the time that I said I wouldn't be speaking about the histories. Well, you know, tough. I just watched this new version of Richard II and I am back for another episode of Shakespeare Themes, Richard II's obsession with titles. In Richard II, there are many moments that essentially boil down to this. What did you just call me? Or, of course, what did you just call him? Now, how does Shakespeare's most elegant, artistically worded, poetic play boil down to this sentiment out of a Western? Well, good question. The answer is that in this play, titles matter. A lot. The late 1300s was a time when a lot of these titles and succession rules were still being invented and worked out. For example, the dukedoms of Lancaster and Hereford had just been bestowed for the first time, and the rules of royal succession, establishing conclusively that the children of an older son to a king would outrank younger sons of that king, had just been put in place. In terms relevant to today, that means that Prince William outranks Prince Charles's younger brothers, Andrew and Edward, even if his father never becomes king and dies before Queen Elizabeth does. Prince William would still be the heir. By the way, without those new rules, Richard might never have been king in the first place, since his father, Edward the Black Prince, died before Edward III did, and the older succession rules might have handed the crown to Edward III's oldest surviving son, John of Gaunt, instead of the son of the oldest son, Edward the Black Prince. That would actually lead the crown to exactly where it ends up in the play, with Henry Bolingbroke, heir to John of Gaunt. Spoiler alert! After all, that was the exact precedent that put King John on the throne about 150 years before this. But Richard was fortunate enough to become the king with the new rules. So, in this play, as Joe Biden might say, using the right title is a BFD. Using the wrong one is even bigger. And the instances where people call out each other for their vocatives often cut right to the heart of how they relate to each other and how they feel about the other's right to have the position that they do. Let's take a peek at 4 of some of the most powerful "what did you just call me" moments in Richard II and how they illuminate the play, shall we? Moment number 1 here is a bit of a warm-up.
What comfort, man? How is't with aged Gaunt?
Oh, how that name befits my composition. Old Gaunt indeed, and gaunt in being old.
Can sick men play so nicely with their name?
No, misery makes sport to mock itself. Since thou dost seek to kill my name in me, I mock my name, great king, to flatter thee.
In this bit here, John Gaunt, in a bit of a roundabout way, calls out Richard for trying to cut off his legacy. To kill my name in me, as he says, means to end his name, his family line, by taking away his oldest son's right to succeed him from exile. John of Gaunt's son, Bolingbroke, was exiled at this time, and Gaunt's toweringly articulate smackdown cuts to this point. But the more interesting "what did you just call me" moments await, moments like this one.
My Lord of Hereford, my message is to you. My lord, my answer is to Lancaster, and I'm come to seek that name in England, and I must find that title in your tongue before I make reply to aught you say.
Mistake me not, my lord. 'Tis not my meaning to raise one title of your honor out. To you, my lord, I come, what lord you will.
In this, Henry deliberately refuses to be called by his previous title, Hereford, demanding that he be addressed as Lancaster, his new title that he should have inherited upon the death of his father. Of course, since Richard stole all of Henry's inheritance, this could be seen as treason. Moment number 3.
Richard, not far from hence, hath hid his head.
It would beseem the Lord Northumberland to say King Richard. Alack, the heavy day when such a sacred king should hide his head.
Your grace mistakes, only to be brief left I his title out.
The time hath been, would you have been so brief with him, he would have been so brief with you. To shorten you for taking so the head, your whole head's length.
Mistake not, uncle, farther than you should.
Where to begin? Wow, this is a lot of punning for a serious royal discussion. At any rate, this simple act of forgetting to say the word king might not seem like a big deal, but later on in the scene, when Richard himself appears on the walls, he notices that Northumberland has not bowed to him the way that he customarily would. He has actually forgotten that this man is the king, and that is foreshadowed by his lack of use of the word king, the head or title of how one would address Richard. Now, if you forget so the head, usually the king would forget your head. So that is a big point here, and it shows that Richard has actually lost a lot of power. It's more than one guy just dropping a syllable so it fits in the 10 in the line. Because ultimately, there is a deadly confusion about the power in England, and not knowing what to call Richard leads to him realizing that relinquishing his title is the only way for the play to continue. And now, this leads right into moment number 4.
My lord! No lord of mine! Thou haught, insulting man!
No man's lord. I have no name, no title. No, not that name was given me at the font, but 'tis usurped. Alack, the heavy day that I have worn so many winters out, and know not now what name to call myself.
Here, Richard's entire identity gets erased by Northumberland's continued absent-mindedness. Damn it, Northumberland, you have to stop doing that. At any rate, the obsession with titles does not end here in Richard II. He's done, he's got nothing left, and Northumberland kind of forgot that. In the next play, Henry IV, Henry has to fight to retain his crown as his former allies who helped him take over from Richard II turn on him. The means of address is critical in terms of how people relate to each other. Henry's the king, but his future enemies forget to call him King Henry and go back to calling him Henry Bolingbroke. No title whatsoever. Not Hereford, not Lancaster, no nothing, just Bolingbroke. And they do the same with his son Prince Hal, calling him Henry Monmouth instead of the Prince of Wales. They don't get their titles, they are just degraded through this lack of titling, which they, at this point, do have the right to. They have the crown and they are the prince, but they're just called Bolingbroke and Monmouth. So throughout the histories, we see that calling somebody by the right title, especially during these times where people are moving up and down through the ranks, is kind of important, and a huge way to show somebody that you don't think that they deserve their place is simply to just call them by their wrong name. So that's why throughout this entire play, we get that kind of westernish sentiment of, what did you just call me? And it is going to continue into the future plays. For the Shakespeare Minute, I'm Cassius. Till next time, think of the world.
A man walks down the street, he says, why am I soft in the middle now? Why am I soft in the middle? The rest of my life is so hard, I need a full...
By the way, I would have used clips from The Hollow Crown, but seeing as they did 30% of the original script and everything else got cut, pretty much all of the moments that I'm talking about aren't there. Can't really help that, so yeah.